Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. Thabiso, how are you?
Good, and you? I love that verse because it challenged me today.
Tell me.
Yeah, so I guess it's like in your work setting, and in your business, those steps that you're sometimes afraid to take, and those leaps of faith that you're sometimes so afraid to take because you are literally afraid. And it's beautiful what God says here is He basically, it's almost a command that He's giving us, that we should be strong and that we should be courageous in our business and in the decisions that we take in our business as well. Like, for instance, and it's something that you have also actually touched on me about, and I actually went to go think a bit deeper into this because you were so spot on. There's some stuff that I'm hopeful for in my business, but I can tell because I'm not going out being courageous and strong, I'm taking a bit longer to get to them. And I believe that it's because I also then come across, and one can feel it, like when me and you talk, you can immediately feel when I'm not being sure of what I'm talking about, and when I'm being a bit fearful, and when I'm in the hopeful stage, and not necessarily saying that I'm going after this and I'm grabbing onto this. So for me, definitely, and it was a simple moment of being on air as well, of having a lot of people inside the studio, and me being strong and courageous and doing what I would do if I'm alone in the studio, because I'm very descriptive. Like, even when I'm alone in the studio, I literally throw my hands up and I do all of these signs. But it's almost like when people were inside the studio, I was scared to live that part of myself out. And I was like, no, Tabs, that's not how you should be doing. Be strong, be courageous, do it anyway.
That's it. The two most repeated things in across the Old and the New Testament is a request for us to prosper, and that's the first one. And the second one is to be brave, to be courageous. Actually, to do not fear. Actually, is the actual most repeated bit. And if we're truly to go and take faith and stick it into our business, maybe we should adopt those two at the core of what we're doing. Like, we're commanded to prosper in His name, and we're commanded to do it fearlessly.
Sure, man. Yeah.
And how often do we hear people go, "Oh, now's not the right time," or "I'm not ready for this," or "What about that?" or "If this happens," or "If that happens," and they almost pray negative circumstances into their business, right? You have to remember that we get what we pray for, but prayer is pretty much anything thought or spoken in His presence. But then He's present the entire time. Therefore, if we're the naysayer with "this may not work, it's this, it's that, it's blah blah blah, wrong time, wrong place, blah," all that stuff, actually we're praying for that. Sure. And then God gives us what we ask for, right?
Man, I love what you said there because that is so true. I've had to watch a lot of what I say, and it's also because of habit, and it's also because of past generations. So you almost have to come and correct that, and then set your next generation up. Like, a very silly example: my son was looking for his belt, and he was going around the house and he was crying that I can't find my belt. And what I kept on telling him is that, don't worry, we're going to find your belt, because he had to go to a concert. And I'm like, and don't worry, we're going to find your belt. And he was very negative. He was like, no, I'm not going to find my belt. I'm not going to find my belt. And I'm like, and you are going to find your belt, and we are going to find it. Don't worry about it. And literally, after looking for about 2 minutes, we found it. But the lesson there that I taught myself and that I taught him as well is that what you speak is so important. So rather than saying we're not going to find it, say we're going to find it, and then we look for it. And it goes with an action.
And then you find it.
And then we find it.
That's it. That's it. So we find what we seek at the end of the day. That's the thing. If we believe that God's not present in our business because God doesn't do business, guess what we'll find? No God present in our business. You know, if we look for it, but I think when I look at my business coaching, the thing that comes out the most is people's lack of desire to do marketing, lack of desire to look in their phone and go blah, 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 or take whatever it may well be. And they know it's important because they know they don't find customers, but they don't want to do it. And most of it's fear-based, right?
Sure.
What if my neighbors see me on this thing? What if they laugh at me? What if in the pub? What if? But that's all fear talk, right? That goes against this commandment of being strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And it says at the start there, have I not commanded you? This isn't a soft request to maybe consider.
Yeah.
Have I not commanded you? That in and of itself, if our Father commands his children to do something, well, then maybe we should kind of go and we also want him on our side. Maybe we should follow the commandment.
I love that. And it brings me to the next question, Rob, because I know that basically doing marketing, and as you said, you know, like literally just taking your phone and doing some marketing is something that we all had to get into. How would you say you basically got into that? Like basically, let's take a practical version of this now. God commands us to do this. How do we practically then start going? Let's place into this thing that's called a phone and let's start doing videos.
So I think it's a thing about just starting in a bad way in a bad place. I mean, and what I mean by that is find a platform that you think can work for you, any platform. I don't think it matters. And just start going and sharing some thought or some wisdom or something, or your experiences, telling your stories about what you do, about your day, about your products, your services, about your customers and your best hopes and aspirations for them. Anything you like. And even if you're there going, I've never done this before and I feel really bad and really nervous and I'm not too sure what to talk about, but I really need to go and tell you more about what it is I do. And what it is I do is this, and I kind of do it like that. And, you know, I hope somebody likes this. Stop, upload it. That's fine. Because you've just been strong and courageous.
Come on. Yeah.
So I think that we seek perfection, and the only perfection is the Holy Trinity. There is no other perfection. So we're seeking something we almost can't find.
Man.
So let's just go do it. Yes, we can make it better. We can edit it. We can do this. But you look at these recordings, right? The honest truth is we're recording these on Google Meet, no fancy equipment. I literally make a Canva thumbnail and type some words into YouTube and bang, we don't edit it or anything.
Yep.
But you said to me this last week when I said to you, no, I'll need to edit it a bit in future. You said something to me about somebody telling you just to take action.
Yeah, no, definitely that. And it's quite amazing. You're taking me back. It's quite amazing that God had to take me in this way to teach me this lesson. You know, it was one of my bad business decisions that I'd made, but I think it also just proved that there isn't really any bad business decision. It's just you learn your lessons from what is supposedly a bad business decision. So what I've come to learn in that setting was, Thabiso, you make do with what you have. And I must tell you, Rob, it made me to never look back. Whenever I think, this is maybe not good, I'm like, no, you make do with what you have. And to your point, when I also started with my videos and when I started presenting, I cringed. It was like, what is this stuff? But then the more you start doing it, the better. the better you get at it. And not that I'm saying that I'm perfect, but definitely when I go look back at some of my videos that I did when I started and the videos that I do now, I can see that there's a huge difference. But it took action. I had to start doing things. I had to be courageous. I had to be strong. And I had to actually take that decision of, okay, Tabs, you're actually going to do it. And I think one thing that stuck out for me and that really came up when I was reading Joshua 1 verse 9 is the prep work is also very important. If I'm going to be strong and courageous, I must be able to sit down and prepare. Like before I make a call to someone, sit down and say, these are the points that I'm going to talk about, so that I don't sound unsure, that I don't sound like I'm hopeful, or that I don't sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's the same with the presentation. I mean, you blessed us with a beautiful presentation at the 4 a.m. club meetup. And my thinking was, yo, man, how long did Rob prep to actually knock it out the park like he did, you know? And that's also part of being strong, and that's also part of being courageous.
I've actually created a problem for myself in October because I'm talking on stage 4 times in October, and which is cool. And you'll be at 1 or 2 of those events.
Yes, cannot wait.
It takes, one of them's for UNISA, which is a massive sort of online university here in South Africa. A few hundred people in the room and 4,000 online on this event. But 1 hour of talking takes me 12 hours of preparation.
Oof.
That's like my rate to do something as well as I did the other Friday evening. That's 45 minutes. That's going to be 9 hours. This isn't a quick thing.
Well,
the interesting thing for this, and I think marketing is so important because it is most business owners' stumbling block. It is the Achilles heel. Is we say, be like Jesus. But then I'd encourage us all to go and read the New Testament and say, right, so who is this Jesus guy when it comes to talking in front of people and magnifying God's word further?
And marketing, yes.
And I'd encourage us to go and think about Mark 4, verse 1, I think it is, where he took to the water in a boat to cast his voice across the water to all of the thousands of people and preach to the people on the shoreline. If we're to be like Jesus, we have to ask ourselves, what's my version of that? My business is my number one opportunity to disciple. It's where I have all of the time in the day available to me to integrate faith within it. And so what is my version of getting in a boat and preaching across the water to thousands or tens of thousands? We say, be like Jesus, and then I think we pick and choose. Oh, no, that's a bit painful. I don't want to be like Jesus there, but I will be like Jesus over here somewhere because that feels all right. And I don't think that if we want to really build a business in his name, that we can actually pick and choose. Like we're either in or we're out.
Sure. Love that. No, I absolutely love that because immediately when you said pick and choose, I immediately thought of Jesus with the woman at the well, because from an outside point of view and from the culture that was in that time, you would look at him and you're like, no, you wouldn't want to do that, but you'd want to be the Jesus that performs all the miracles. And I think it takes both ends, like you say. It takes Jesus being with a woman at the well, and it also takes the Jesus who did the miracles to actually be strong and courageous.
So you think about it, this is just my last thought. Jesus taught first and demonstrated second. He taught for hours and hours and hours, and the demonstrations often were quite quick, right? Yeah. I think we want to do the demonstrations. We don't realize we have to do the teaching first.
Oh, man.
And that's the 12 hours of preparation for 1 hour on stage that looks really good, but you don't see what happens behind stage, right? It is the wanting to have the customer says, I want to buy, which is wonderful. That's the miracle. But it's all the work that takes that to happen beforehand. And that's the strong and courageous bit when your video gets no views, or when TikTok bans your account again, or whatever it may. I've had my account suspended twice now for talking on my phone while driving. Oh,
man.
So I got a final question for you, right?
Yeah.
It says, do not be discouraged. if you could leave people with a word of advice about not being discouraged and about carrying on because God's with them, what would be your I mean, you must have had radio shows with lots of listeners and no listeners, you know, everything in between. What would be your keep going advice for people?
I would definitely say borrow from yesterday's blessings. It is such a thing that we forget to do. And when we are faced with a situation where there is a lot of listeners and low listeners, you go into panic mode and you don't act strong and courageous. And I often just sit a bit down and then I borrow from yesterday's blessings. And I think as human beings, we're so imperfect at times, because God would have taken you through a certain thing and you would be posed with another challenge similar to that, but you would forget that, man, the same God that brought me through that can surely bring me through this as well. And I love, in short, I literally just love going to borrow from yesterday's blessing, saying that, man, if God helped me in that, I can definitely do this as well.
I love it. Thank you, Thabiso. You're a rock star.